Hey everyone, we'll be wrapping up our series on editing basics by learning about some cool tools called transitions. They allow us to fade in, fade out, and even mix together both video and audio clips as we play through them in the timeline. So let's get started. All right, my friends, welcome to another video lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be discussing the basic use of transitions. Now, if you remember, when I joined the two parts of my song together here, I used a very short transition, something like 4 frames long. What I want to do next is fade the end here. So if we cruise to the end here and play through it, you can hear there's something I don't quite like here. You can actually hear the sound of the guitar's fingers sliding across the strings right toward the end. Listen. Wee-wah. I want to get rid of that. So what I'm going to do is roll over the clip boundary here until I get my trim arrow, click and hold, and actually pull the end of the clip over to trim it back and eliminate that portion I don't want. Let's play through and see if I got rid of it. Nice, but now the end of the song just cuts. It doesn't fade. It doesn't sound like it comes to an end naturally. So we're going to have to use a transition to make it fade the way we want it to. So what I'm going to do is head over to my effects panel here, twirl down audio transitions, and then crossfade. And you can see I have several choices here. And the one in the middle, constant power, is the default audio transition. And I know that because it's got the blue box around the icon here. You can set any of these as your default transition by right-clicking and choosing Set Selected as Default Transition. But we're going to stick with constant power. It's the most commonly used one, and it's going to work perfectly for this application. So there are a number of different ways to apply this transition. I can click and hold and drag it over to the clip boundary here, let go, and there it is. I can also click on the clip boundary, select it, right-click, and choose Apply Default Transitions. That does the same thing. I can also click on the transition icon in the upper right corner of the clip itself here. You can see right next to my mouse pointer. And hold and drag out my transition to whatever length I desire. You can see there's a counter just to the right and below. And I can also use a keyboard shortcut, selecting the clip boundary here and using Shift-D like we've done in a previous video lesson. All of those will accomplish the placement of that same default transition. The other thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the curvature of the transition itself. You can actually change this. By clicking and holding the transition icon here in the upper left of the transition itself and dragging up and down, you can change the shape of the fade. You can see if I drag it up here, I get a fade that hangs on to the power of the signal in the audio waveform longer and then fades off toward the end more quickly. If I drag it down, it will fade more towards the beginning and then level off at the end. And you can see when I drag it, there's actually a value. It says fade cosine value here. I'm going to hang on to the signal for a little bit more time at the beginning of the fade and have it kind of ramp down more quickly toward the end. So let's hear what that sounds like. Pretty cool. I think I'd like it to be longer though, and there are a couple different ways I can change the length of it. Number one, I can double click it, and you can see right now it's set to 29 frames because I've moved the boundary around a little bit. By default, it's set to 1 second. So I'm going to change that to 2 seconds by typing 200, hitting enter, and you can see it increases the length to 2 seconds. The other way I can do that is to roll over the transition boundary here until I get this special transition trim tool. And you have to be zoomed in enough to be able to do this. If I zoom out, you can see I don't get that tool anymore. I only get the clip trim tool here. So you have to be zoomed in far enough to actually see that tool when you roll over the transition boundary. Click and hold and drag, and I can change the length of it to make it shorter or longer. And you can see again, there's the counter in the lower right. I'm going to go with 2 seconds. Let's hear what that sounds like. Nice. Like it a lot. Okay, so transitions aren't just for audio. We can also use them on video as well. I'm going to cruise over here to the transition between my eagle and my fish. And believe it or not, this is actually a transition. From one frame to the next, we change from the eagle shot to the fish shot. That is called a hard or straight cut. And that is a transition. It is very sudden, but it is still a transition from one clip to another. But let's say we want to dissolve between the two, mix them together as we transition from one clip to the other. So we're going to go over to our FX panel, twirl up audio transitions, twirl down video transitions, and go to dissolve. And you can see the cross dissolve is the default transition here, and it can be applied in many of the same ways that we applied our audio transition. You can drag and drop it. You can click on the clip boundary, select it, right click and choose Apply Default Transitions, or you can use a keyboard shortcut. Select that edit point, and again, use Shift D. Let's play through and see what that looks like. Nice. You can see as we play across the two clips through that transition, they blend together until the fish take over the eagle. Very nice. Now, the very special thing about the keyboard shortcut for applying that transition is that you can select all of these clips, hit Shift D, and have the transition be applied to every edit point at once. And there they are, transitions on every single edit point. So it'll fade up here at the beginning, and then transition from the macaw to the eagle, and then eagle to the fish, and then fade out at the end here. Pretty cool. This can be a real time saver if you're applying the same type and length of transition to a lot of cut points. And one thing I'd like you guys to understand is that there are many, many transitions and effects in the effects panel. And I encourage you to explore them. Try them out. See what they do. I guarantee you'll have a lot of fun finding out. All right, my friends, that does it for this video lesson. I'll see you again in the next one.